Imagine this. You send your daughter to a local weekend market with a little birthday money, only to find her cornered by a group of strangers, grown women, screaming at her about being a bad granddaughter and a terrible sister. All because of your ex's lies. I'm a 46-year-old mom of 2 teenage daughters, 17 and 15. Last year, my ex-husband died in an accident. That may sound tragic, but for us, his death came tangled in betrayal, grief, and family chaos. See, before he died, I discovered that he had been cheating on me. And not just cheating, he had fathered 2 sons with his affair partner. To make things even more complicated, the affair partner also passed away in that same accident. So suddenly, 2 boys were left orphaned. My ex's parents, my ex-in-laws, decided it was their holy mission to drag my daughters into this mess. They tried to file for custody of my girls, and even demanded to move in with us. Custody we're handling in court. Living together, never going to happen. Now, you need to understand. My daughters were the ones who discovered their father's affair in the first place. They were the ones who saw the messages, the receipts, the undeniable truth. They've carried that trauma, and they're in therapy because of it. So the last thing they needed was to be forced into some fake happy family dynamic with their father's affair children. Fast forward to last month. We were at our town's weekend farmers market, a place full of fresh produce, eggs, meats, honey, and chocolates. It was a special day, my youngest's birthday. Her party was planned for later, but I wanted to give her something fun, so I gave her a budget and told her, go wild. Buy whatever sweets you want. About an hour later, my phone rang. It was her. Her voice was trembling, broken. She was crying. She said, "Mom, some weird people cornered me." My heart sank. I dropped what I was holding and ran with my older daughter through the crowd. When I found her, my blood boiled. 6 older women had surrounded her, like a pack of vultures circling prey. They were pointing fingers, scolding her, shaming her. "You're unchristian," one spat. "Why don't you spend time with your poor grandparents?" another sneered. "And the worst, you should be a good big sister to your orphaned baby brothers." Those words cut like glass. These women knew nothing of my daughter's pain, her trauma, or the nights she cried herself to sleep over her father's betrayal. Yet here they were, strangers, weaponizing religion to bully a 15-year-old child. I saw red. I pulled my daughter behind me, shielding her. I turned to my eldest and said, "Go pay for your sister's things. Get to the car. Now." Then I faced the pack. Some of these women I recognized. They went to my ex-in-law's church. They looked at me with disgust and hissed things like, "You're a failure as a wife. A good Christian woman would obey her husband's parents." Obey. As if I was still bound to serve a man who betrayed me in my own home. The argument grew louder, sharper, until the market staff told all of us to leave. I walked my girls to the car, these women trailing us, hurling words like stones. We shut ourselves inside, and I drove away, my hands shaking on the wheel. That night, after I tucked my daughters into bed, I opened my laptop. I needed answers. I messaged a man from that church, a friend, someone I still respected. I told him what had happened. He apologized, and then he explained. My ex-mother-in-law had posted a sob story on the church's Facebook group. According to her, my daughters and I had abandoned her and her husband, left them penniless and homeless. She claimed we stole my ex's money. She painted herself and her husband as victims of cruel, selfish women. And the kicker. She accused us of being the reason she lost her precious grandsons. The truth was the boys had been placed with distant relatives. But of course, she left that part out. Her post read like a Hallmark movie script. And people ate it up. Sympathy, pity, messages of support poured in. But here's where she made her fatal mistake. This church, while outdated and judgmental in many ways, has one iron rule. Cheating is the ultimate sin. Man or woman, doesn't matter. Cheat, and you're condemned. So how did my ex-mother-in-law get around the fact that her saintly son had fathered 2 children during his marriage? She lied. She told the entire congregation that the affair partner was actually a surrogate. That I couldn't have more children. That I didn't want the babies because they were boys. The sheer disgust that rolled through me when I read that, when I realized she'd dragged my daughters into this false narrative, was indescribable. And that's when something inside me snapped. See, I was mid-divorce when my ex died, which meant I had all the evidence. Photos, messages, proof. And because the divorce hadn't been finalized, I faced no legal consequences for sharing it. The next day, I went to a print shop. I spent hours printing everything in crisp, high-quality color. Photos of my ex and his mistress, locked in passionate kisses in our living room. Screenshots of their text exchanges. Messages where his parents admitted they knew and supported his cheating. Emails where my in-laws berated me. And worst of all, messages where they bullied my daughters, calling them bastards, and blaming them for their father's death. 2 days after he died, they sent that message. 2 children. I didn't just print them. I curated them. I created binders, beautiful glossy binders that looked just like the hymn booklets the church handed out. Sunday morning, I walked into that church. My heart hammered, but my resolve was unshakable. I slipped the binders onto the back desk, right beside the hymn packets. And then, I walked out. The gossip mill didn't just churn, it exploded. Within hours, the Facebook group was on fire. My ex and his mistress were dragged through the mud with names so filthy the pastor himself had to step in. My ex-in-laws? Exposed for every cruel word they'd ever spoken to my girls. Ironically, some still blamed me for divorcing my husband, but suddenly, it was understandable. Suddenly, I was a woman who faltered under great suffering. Meanwhile, my ex was condemned as a cheater, and his parents? As enablers. Within days, my daughters received letters of apology, invitations to return to church. And my ex-in-laws? They were shamed into leaving, tails between their legs. My ex-mother-in-law posted one last cry for sympathy, about how no one cared for the elderly anymore, how her great son would have provided for her. But everyone knew the truth. He was no saint. And without me, he would have had nothing anyway. I was always the breadwinner. For once, justice wasn't just served. It was sung in hymnals. That moment, the binders, the gossip, the church turning on them, was pure vindication. After years of manipulation, abuse, and lies, my daughters and I finally saw the scales tip in our favor. My girls weren't villains. My ex wasn't a martyr. And his parents. They were finally held accountable, not by me, but by the very community they had weaponized against us. Sometimes, revenge doesn't mean shouting louder. Sometimes it means showing the truth so clearly that nobody can look away. Lies crumble in the face of undeniable evidence. And when that day comes, it feels like the universe itself is singing justice. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? And of course, subscribe for more stories just like this.